Well, we're here today with Steve and Pat Amsler, who are with us on our trip to Israel, and we're going to be talking a little bit about the experience of the Israelites and what that meant and what it looked like, but we wanted to have them share a little bit about their trip and highlights and what surprised them, what was interesting about their trip to Israel, and then get a little bit more specific after that. So welcome, thanks. No particular order here or agenda, just what were your takeaways from the Israel trip? What was interesting to you or surprising or something that really caught your attention during the trip?
Well, I guess for me, the fact that Israel is a relatively small country, you can travel from one end to the other in a matter of hours in a bus, and so it's not a very big country, but the amount of contrast is what kind of surprised me. From the beautiful green, lush countryside up in the Golan Heights to the completely desolate desert, Dead Sea where nothing lives in the south. And it's just it's a land of contrast.
Mm-hmm. Good. Pat?
And I thought the same thing, because the north was so beautiful, and all of the fruit trees and the orchards and just the difference, definitely what Steve says, the contrast. And I expected it to be maybe a little more third world looking than it was. I mean, we kind of associate all of those countries as maybe a third world country, but in some areas it was, you could tell there was wealth there. And so that surprised me.
Good. How about any of the biblical sites or anything else?
Yeah, they were all amazing, from Capernaum to the Sea of Galilee was just amazing, and the boat ride out on the Sea of Galilee was very special, and all the biblical sites we went to were really nice. Now there is, urban build-up around many of these areas, but yet you don't have to use your imagination that much to take you back to Jesus' day.
Mm-hmm.
And what I was most looking forward to was the Garden of Gethsemane and standing on the Mount of Olives and seeing the East Gate and knowing that's that Jesus had been there, walked there, that's where he entered, and that's where he's going to return.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I was most looking forward to seeing.
And Holy Week looks a little different once you've
Sure does.
been there, doesn't it?
Mhm.
It does, to see, and you can stand up on the Mount of Olives and look out over Jerusalem. It's an amazing sight.
Mm-hmm. Well, great. So we're going to be talking kind of our second in a series talking about Joshua and God's people in a time of transition. We were at the place where they crossed over the Jordan River, so any thoughts about that? Of course, that's also the site where Jesus' baptism was, and that's no coincidence. And maybe the desert, was it what you thought it would be, or what did it strike you?
The desert was vast. I mean, we didn't even cover very much of it, but we drove up along the Dead Sea, and you would go for miles without ever seeing a tree or a plant. It was just a giant pile of barren dirt.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
And at first glance, it's just gorgeous. It's beautiful, and the scenery, you look out at, and it's vast, it's breathtaking, but then you think 40 days where there's nothing. And it's hillier than I thought it would be, and rockier. You think of as a desert as a lot of sand, but there's a lot of dirt, but a lot of stones also.
Yep.
And you look at it and you think, for 40 minutes we walked, at Masada, and it starts to get pretty warm, and it was spring. So then you think, okay, the height of summer and 40 days, pretty lonely, pretty dry, pretty hot.
Yep.
It starts out, you think, breathtaking, and almost ends with you thinking it's life-taking also.
Yeah, absolutely. That'll preach. I like that. Anything about the place where they crossed the river and the baptism site of Jesus? Which
Much
is where-
muddier
where
than
our
I thought it
scripture-
would be.
The Jordan, yeah, sure.
And
Much
And
muddier.
it's small too.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned last Sunday, it wasn't the size of the river that was the barrier. And you can see that when you're standing, the river's only 50 feet, 50 yards wide, maybe
Mhm.
at the widest place. But
Mhm.
so it wasn't the river that gave them the pause.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Great. Well, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. And I think it'll be a good kickoff for hearing a little bit more about the introduction to Joshua and what they experienced. So appreciate your time. Thanks.
You're welcome.